In this video, we'll give you 6 wide receivers that you'll want to draft in 2024 fantasy leagues. I'm Jim Coventry, along with Anthony Cervina of RotoWire. Anthony, who's your first receiver?
Now, the first receiver I can't stop drafting, Ladd McConkey, and I get a little bit of heat on social media because I have Ladd McConkey ranked as my number 2 rookie receiver in redraft. Obviously, I'm not dynasty, but for the immediate future, I love Ladd McConkey. When Malik Neighbors going right around 26 and Ladd 70, I like Ladd's situation better at quarterback. And let's face it, both wide receiver rooms aren't great. And I think the wide receiver 1 spot with the Chargers is very much winnable with Ladd McConkey. He has a superior quarterback over Neighbors, and he's a player that, let's say you punt wide receiver a little bit and you go maybe a tight end and a couple running backs early. You want to build your team around some receivers. Ladd's one of them, and there'll be another one later in this video I'm going to talk about.
My first receiver I can't stop drafting is Amari Cooper of the Cleveland Browns. Did you know that in the 2 years in Cleveland and with significant quarterback issues, Cooper is averaging 75 catches, 1,205 yards, and 7 touchdowns? And those numbers include 2 missed games in 2023. Now, here's the good news. People are worried about Deshaun Watson. Well, guess what? Cooper played 5 games with Deshaun Watson last year, and Amari Cooper had 90 yards in 4 of those 5 games. Now, last year, we knew the consistency could be a little on and off. Not terribly, but we had that 265-yard game with Joe Flacco. But hey, how many receivers are capable of that? But the one thing is, Cooper was much more consistent when Deshaun Watson was at quarterback. Now, Cooper is going into his age 30 season, but he has yet to show signs of slowing down. In reality, the last 2 years have shown us that Cooper should be a second or a third round type of pick. Instead, we are getting him well beyond that in drafts. So take the value outside the top 24 receivers. Anthony, who do you have next?
George Pickens. And George Pickens, like I said when I was talking about Ladd McConkey, there's another player that if you want to build your receivers a little bit later in drafts, Ladd and George Pickens is the other one I'm leaving my drafts with. And I love the situation for George Pickens. No more Deontay Johnson. And I get an Arthur Smith offense. It's not known for its high passing volume, but George Pickens is a special player. He's a playmaker with the football in his hand. So I don't think he really needs extensive volume to return value on his current 41.3 ADP. Last season, he was a number 1 receiver, yards per reception, number 5 in yards per target. He's a big play waiting to happen. And with the quarterback upgrade in Russell Wilson, even if it's Justin Fields, both of them, more so Russ, they have a history of supporting number 1 wide receivers in fantasy football. And as recently with Justin Fields, I get it. Passing is not his strong suit, but look at the damage DJ Moore did for fantasy teams last year. I'm all in on George Pickens.
The second receiver I can't stop drafting, Marquise Brown of the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, Brown's 2023 season, it was the worst in his career. But in the first half of the year, honestly, it was a carousel of bad quarterback play. And that is a lot to do with why Brown didn't play well. Now, once Kyler Murray returned to action, Brown only played 2 games with limited snaps, and he missed the last 3 with a heel injury, so he didn't have serious reps with Murray. I do want you to look at 2022, though. There were 6 games that Marquise Brown and Kyler Murray were healthy. In those games, Marquise Brown averaged 7 catches, 81 yards, and a half a touchdown. Those are high-end wide receiver numbers. And remember, Marquise Brown has commanded at least 100 targets in 4 straight seasons. Now with Patrick Mahomes, Brown could easily beat his career year of 2021. And in that year, 91 catches, 1,008 yards, and 6 touchdowns. The thing I like about Brown is he has great ability to get vertical once a play breaks down, and that skill is perfect for Patrick Mahomes, who is elite at buying time, looking downfield, and then finding his man. That's going to be Marquise Brown. Brown is also capable of running a diverse route tree, so he is not limited to being a deep threat. Marquise Brown is a value on draft day outside the top 30 receivers. This is the best situation he's been in during his career. Anthony, who's your third receiver?
The third receiver I can't stop drafting, and this one you got to pay up a little bit for, but I think he's going to cash in on his current price, 14.4 ADP over an underdog right now, and that's Drake London. Talk about receivers that are in the best situation of their career. Well, that's Drake London. I think with this player, people are too worried about the pass, and the pass for Drake London hasn't been good. The offense hasn't been good. His quarterback play hasn't been good, and neither is his fantasy production. He has yet to top a wide receiver 42 position in fantasy points per game. That changes this year, inheriting Zach Robinson, Kirk Cousins. Drake London is in line to be a big-time fantasy asset this year. And if you look at the receivers going around Drake London, there's just a little bit of risk involved. Marvin Harrison, Chris Olave, even a guy like Devontae Adams, they're all going close in price point. They all have, in my opinion, bigger question marks than Drake London, as he has a stability in quarterback with Kirk Cousins.
The third wide receiver who I can't stop drafting is Christian Kirk of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, remember, Kirk suffered a season-ending groin injury on the first snap in Week 14. The games before that, Kirk was on pace for a 1,200-yard season. Calvin Ridley was on that team, and yet Kirk was still seeing 7 targets a game. So when Brian Thomas comes in via the draft, that should not have an impact on the target share that Christian Kirk's going to see. Now, the big year 2 years ago in 2022 that Kirk had, it was 7.8 targets per game. That's when they had no receiver. But as we said, he still saw significant targets when there was competition. So Christian Kirk is fine there. We know that Kirk should continue to be the lead receiver in this offense, even though Brian Thomas is there, even though many of the snaps are played in the slot for Christian Kirk. Remember, Kirk sees 76% of his targets in the slot. The league plays zone at a 73% rate. And talk about a perfect match, getting open against seams in the zone. That's what the NFL is about today. Now, that said, we have Kirk playing his third year with Trevor Lawrence. There's no issue with chemistry. Jacksonville should have a middling defense again, which means they're going to have to throw the ball often. So the situation couldn't be better. And again, you're getting Kirk outside the top 24 receivers. Hey, if you enjoy videos like this, please consider hitting the like button and subscribe to the RotoWire Fantasy Football channel on YouTube. Also, check out all of our fantasy football content and rankings by getting a free 2-day trial with no credit card needed. Go to rotowire.com/Jim to see all of our content.